Park Do-hyun stood near the window of the small cafe, watching his daughter laugh with other teenagers across the station plaza. Yuna was 16 now, almost the same age her mother had been when they first met. She had her mother's smile, bright and honest, the kind that made strangers feel like old friends. The space station Horizon's Edge floated at the edge of known space, a place where traders from dozens of species came to buy and sell. It was neutral ground, safe enough for a cultural exchange program where young people from different worlds could meet and learn about each other. Do-hyun had agreed to let Yuna attend while he handled some cargo business nearby. She had begged him for weeks. He sipped his coffee and smiled. Yuna was telling some story, her hands moving through the air as she spoke. The alien teenagers around her seemed confused but entertained. Humans talked with their whole bodies, something other species found strange and amusing. 8 years had passed since the war. 8 years since he had worn his armor, since he had been called the Reaper of Andros. That name felt like it belonged to someone else now. These days, he was just a cargo hauler who made breakfast for his daughter and helped her with homework. He liked this life. It was quiet. It was good. His communicator buzzed. A message from his business partner about a delayed shipment. Nothing important. He typed a quick reply and looked up again. Yuna was gone. Do-hyun set down his coffee. He scanned the plaza carefully. The other teenagers were still there, but Yuna's seat was empty. She probably went to the bathroom, he told himself. Or maybe she found something interesting in one of the shops. He waited 5 minutes, then 10. Something cold settled in his stomach. It was a feeling he had not experienced in years, a soldier's instinct that screamed danger. He walked across the plaza to the group of teenagers. A young Thari boy with blue scales looked up at him. The human girl who was sitting here, Do-hyun said calmly. Where did she go? Some adults came, the boy said. They said her father needed her. She went with them. Do-hyun's blood turned to ice. What did they look like? Vrel, I think. 2 of them. They had uniforms. The Vrel were a reptilian species known for smuggling and crime in the outer territories. They had no reason to take his daughter unless they wanted something from him. But almost no one knew who he really was. He had been so careful. He thanked the boy and walked away, his pace steady but fast. His mind was already working through possibilities. Ransom was most likely. The Vrel syndicate often kidnapped wealthy merchants and their families for money. They must have seen him at the trading posts and assumed he was just another businessman. They did not know. They could not know. If they knew who he was, they would never have touched his daughter. He reached his ship, the Silent Wake, in 12 minutes. It was an old military cruiser, rebuilt to look like a cargo vessel. Most people saw dull gray metal and rust marks. They did not see the hidden weapon systems or the reinforced hull. Do-hyun sat in the pilot's chair and checked his messages. There it was. A ransom demand, sent to his personal channel. The message was simple. They had his daughter. They wanted 200,000 credits transferred to a secure account. If he contacted station security or any military force, they would kill her. If he paid within 48 hours, she would be returned safely. The message ended with a casual threat, the kind criminals used when they thought they had power over someone weak. Do-hyun read it 3 times. His face showed nothing. Then he stood up and walked to the back of his ship. There was a storage compartment there, sealed with a lock that required his blood and voice to open. He had not opened it in 8 years. He had promised himself he never would again. But promises meant nothing when his daughter was in danger. The compartment hissed open. Inside, wrapped in black cloth, was his old combat armor. It was dark gray with red markings, scarred from dozens of battles. Next to it was his weapon, a custom plasma rifle that had no official name. Soldiers had called it the the Widowmaker, because of what it had done during the Crimson War. Da-Hyun removed the cloth slowly. The armor still fit perfectly. He had kept his body in shape out of habit, even during peaceful years. He thought about his wife, Yuna's mother. She had died during the war, killed when enemy forces attacked a civilian transport. He had been too far away to save her. The guilt had nearly destroyed him. In his rage and grief, he had done things that still haunted his nightmares. He had ended the war almost single-handedly, but the cost had been terrible. After the war, he had promised his wife's memory that he would be better, that he would raise their daughter with love, not violence, that he would never become the Reaper again. But they took his little girl. He put on the armor piece by piece. Each part felt familiar, like greeting an old friend he had hoped to never see again. When he was finished, he looked at himself in a small mirror. The man staring back was not Park Do-hyun, the gentle cargo hauler who made bad jokes and burned pancakes on Sunday mornings. This was someone else entirely. This was the soldier who had walked through fire and blood, who had made admirals tremble and caused entire fleets to retreat. He did not respond to the ransom message. There would be no negotiation, no payment. Instead, he began to trace the message's origin. The Vrel were clever, but they were not clever enough. Within an hour, he had a general direction. Within 2 hours, he had a sector. Before he left, he sent 2 messages. The first was to an old friend named Kang My-rae. It contained only coordinates and 3 words: I need you. The second message was broadcast on an open channel that anyone could hear. It was short, calm, and terrifying in its simplicity. My name is Park Do-hyun. Someone has taken my daughter. I'm coming to get her back. Then he fired up the Silent Wake's engines, and the ship disappeared into the darkness between stars. Across the galaxy, in military bases and government offices and criminal hideouts, people heard that name and felt their blood run cold. The Reaper of Andrus was awake, and God help anyone who stood in his way. The message spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Beat Jisoo was working late at her intelligence station when the alert came through. She was a human operative who monitored criminal networks for the Colonial Defense Force. Most of her work was boring, endless hours of reading intercepted messages and tracking ship movements. But tonight was different. Her screen flashed with an emergency notice. A kidnapping on Horizon's Edge. The victim was a 16-year-old human girl named Park Yuna. Jisoo began typing a standard report. But then she ran the name through the database. The results made her stop breathing. Park Yuna, daughter of Park Do-hyun. The Park Do-hyun, Admiral Park Do-hyun of the Third Fleet, hero of the Crimson War, the Reaper of Andrus. Jisoo's hands started shaking. She had been a young cadet during the war, too junior to serve in combat. But she had heard the stories. Everyone had heard the stories. She immediately sent alerts to every human military outpost within 50 light years. Then she contacted her superiors. Then she poured herself a very strong drink because she knew what was coming. Somewhere in the outer territories, the Vrel Syndicate had just made the worst mistake in their history. Kang My-rae received Do-hyun's message while eating dinner alone in her apartment. She was 45 years old, still strong, still dangerous. After the war, she had started a private security company. The work was good. The money was better. But something had always been missing. She read the message 3 times. Coordinates and 3 words. I need you. In all the years she had served under Do-hyun, he had never asked for help. Not once. Even when his wife died, even when he had gone into enemy space alone to end the war, he had refused assistance. If he was asking now, things were serious. My-rae left her dinner on the table and went to her communication console. Within an hour, she had contacted 6 other veterans from their old unit. All of them dropped everything when they heard the situation. Old soldiers never forgot their commander, especially one who had saved their lives more times than they could count. Yun Taiho answered from a mining station where he worked security. He was a demolitions expert, the kind of man who could turn a box of scraps into a weapon. When my Ray told him what happened, he simply said, "Send me the coordinates. I will be there." Han Somin was harder to find. She had retired to a farming colony and rarely answered messages. But when she finally responded, her voice was cold and steady. "Someone took Dayan's daughter? Those fools. Tell him I will fly anything, anywhere. Just give me a ship." The Galactic Council met in emergency session the next morning. Representatives from dozens of species sat in the great circular chamber, confused about why they had been summoned. Ambassador Solvik of the Thari Collective had called the meeting, and he was known for never wasting anyone's time. Solvik was old, his blue scales faded to gray. He had lived through 3 major wars and countless smaller conflicts. He had seen the rise and fall of empires. Very little surprised him anymore. He stood at the center podium and waited for silence. "Yesterday," he began, "criminals from the Vril Syndicate kidnapped several children from Horizon's Edge Station. One of those children was the daughter of a human named Park Do-hyun." Murmurs filled the chamber. Most representatives did not recognize the name. A young Vril diplomat raised his hand. "Ambassador, why does this require a council meeting? Kidnappings happen across the galaxy every day. Tragic, but hardly unusual." Solvik looked at him with something like pity. "You are young. You do not remember the Crimson War. Allow me to educate you." He pressed a button and holographic images appeared in the air. Battle footage from 8 years ago. Ships exploding. Stations burning. During the war, a collective fleet attacked a civilian transport carrying human refugees. Among the dead was Park Do-hyun's wife. He was an admiral then, commanding the 3rd Fleet. When he learned of her death, he left his post. The images changed. A single cruiser entering enemy space, alone. He flew into the Andrus system, where the collective had gathered 47 warships. He engaged them by himself. The young Vril diplomat laughed nervously. 1 ship against 47? He must have died immediately. Solvik shook his head slowly. He destroyed them. All of them. In 9 hours. He used tactics no one had ever seen before. He turned their own weapons against them. He crashed damaged ships into functional ones. When his ammunition ran out, he rammed the enemy flagship with his own vessel and boarded it alone. The chamber was silent now. He killed the collective's commanding admiral with his bare hands. Then he broadcast a message to every remaining collective ship in the sector. He said, "Your war is over. Go home. If I see any of you again, I will finish what I started." They surrendered within the hour. The war ended the next day. Solvik turned off the holographic display. That is who Park Do-hyun is. That is the man whose daughter was just kidnapped. I called this meeting not to organize a rescue mission. The girl will be rescued. I called this meeting to warn all of you. Do not interfere with this man. Do not attempt to negotiate with him. Do not be anywhere near his targets. This is not a threat. This is survival advice. Another diplomat spoke up. Surely you exaggerate. One human cannot be that dangerous. Solvik's old eyes were tired and sad. I was at Andrus. I commanded one of those 47 ships. I surrendered because I watched that man tear through our fleet like we were made of paper. I have never been so afraid in my entire life. And that was when someone killed his wife. He paused to let his words sink in. Now someone has taken his daughter, his only child, the last piece of his wife that remains in this universe. I do not exaggerate when I say this. Whatever he did at Andrus will be nothing compared to what he will do now. The chamber remained silent. Some representatives looked skeptical. Others looked terrified. In the outer territories, Vrel syndicate leaders were receiving similar warnings from their own intelligence networks. Half of them wanted to release the girl immediately and apologize. The other half thought it was too late for that. Torvin, the smuggler who had organized the kidnapping, sat in his ship and stared at the message on his screen. Park-Doyen, the Reaper of Andrus. He had taken the Reaper's daughter. His hands would not stop shaking. He could release the girl. Maybe Doyen would show mercy. But Torvin had built his reputation on never backing down. If he showed weakness now, other criminals would see him as easy prey. No, he would keep the girl. Use her as leverage. Do-hyun was just one man. The syndicate had hundreds of soldiers. Surely that would be enough. Somewhere in the back of his mind, a voice whispered that he was making a terrible mistake. He ignored it. The silent wake crossed into Vrel territory at midnight, station time. There were no warnings, no requests for permission. The ship simply appeared on border sensors like a ghost. 2 Vrel patrol vessels moved to intercept. Their captains were young and confident. This was their space, and no one entered without paying tribute. Then their communication systems crackled with an incoming broadcast. I am Park-Doyen. I am looking for my daughter. Anyone who helps me will be remembered. Anyone who stands in my way will be forgotten, because there will be nothing left to remember. The voice was calm and flat. There was no anger in it, no emotion at all. Somehow, that made it worse. The first patrol captain checked his database for the name. When the results appeared on his screen, his green scales turned pale. He immediately ordered his ship to turn around and fly in the opposite direction. The second captain was braver, or perhaps just more foolish. He opened a channel and demanded that the human vessel stop and prepare for inspection. Do-hyun did not respond. The Silent Wake's engines roared, and the ship accelerated to impossible speed. It passed the patrol vessel so close that the smaller ship shook from the pressure wave. By the time the Vrel captain recovered, the human ship was already gone, vanished into the darkness ahead. The captain stared at his empty screen for a long moment. Then he quietly deleted all records of the encounter and decided he had seen nothing. Some battles were not worth fighting. Deep in Vrel space, the cargo freighter carrying Yuna and the other kidnapped children drifted through an asteroid field. It was a good hiding spot, hard to find and easy to defend. Torvin had used it many times before. Inside the cargo hold, Yuna sat with her back against the cold metal wall. There were 11 other children with her, ranging from 10 to 17 years old. Most of them were crying. Some had stopped crying because they had no tears left. Yuna was scared too. Her heart beat fast, and her hands trembled when she tried to hold them still. But she remembered what her father always said: fear is normal. Fear keeps you alive. But you must never let fear control you. She looked at the other children and forced herself to speak calmly. Hey, everyone, listen to me. A few heads turned toward her. We are going to be okay. Our families are looking for us right now. We just need to stay calm and stay together until they find us. A young Thari boy sniffled. How do you know they will find us? Yuna thought about her father. She thought about his gentle hands making breakfast, his terrible jokes that always made her groan, his warm hugs when she was sad. But she also remembered something else. A look in his eyes sometimes, late at night, when he thought she was not watching. Something hard and cold, like steel hidden beneath soft cloth. She did not understand that look, but she trusted it. Because my father will never stop looking, she said. Never. Something in her voice made the other children believe her. They stopped crying, at least for a while. Yuna organized them into groups, made sure everyone had water, checked on the youngest ones who were most frightened. She was terrified. But being busy helped. Do-hyun met Mireille and the others at a dead station, floating in neutral space. It was an old mining facility, abandoned decades ago. Now it served as a meeting point for people who did not want to be found. The reunion was brief and professional. These were soldiers, not friends gathering for a party. Mireille brought 4 veterans with her. Yoon Tae-ho, the demolitions expert. Han So-min, the pilot. 2 others, Choi Hyun-woo and No Eun-bi, both combat specialists who had served in the war. They gathered around a holographic map of Rel territory. "I have traced the kidnappers to this region," Do-hyun said, pointing to a cluster of asteroids near the border. "Informants confirm a cargo freighter matching the description passed through here 6 hours ago." Mireille studied the map. "That is deep in Syndicate territory. They have at least 3 bases in that sector, probably more hidden ones. Then we checked them all." Tae-ho scratched his gray beard. "What is the plan? Stealth or direct assault?" Do-hyun's eyes were empty and cold. "We give them one chance to surrender. If they refuse, we go through them." So-min smiled grimly. "Just like old times." They split into 2 teams. Do-hyun and Mireille would approach the most likely base directly. The others would cut off escape routes and handle reinforcements. Before they departed, Mireille put her hand on Do-hyun's shoulder. "We will find her," she said quietly. "I know. And after we find her, you are going to stop. You are going to go home and be a father again. This life, this version of you, it stays buried after today. Understood?" Do-hyun looked at her. For a moment, something human flickered in his dead eyes. "If she is safe, I will be whatever she needs me to be." The hunt continued. They hit the first Syndicate base within hours. It was a supply station, lightly defended. Do-hyun walked in the front door while Mireille covered the exits. The guards inside saw a human in old military armor. They raised their weapons. Do-hyun moved. It was over in 30 seconds. Every guard was down, unconscious but alive. Do-hyun stood in the middle of the room, not even breathing hard. He grabbed the station commander by the throat and lifted him off the ground. "A cargo freighter came through here recently. Children on board. Where did it go?" The commander, a middle-aged Vrel with shaking hands, pointed at a navigation console. "The logs. Check the logs, please. I have a family." Do-hyun dropped him and checked the logs. The freighter had passed through 12 hours ago, heading deeper into the asteroid field. He downloaded the data and walked out without another word. The second base was military. More guards, better weapons, actual defenses. It did not matter. Tae-ho blew the main door. So-min crashed their shuttle through the hangar bay wall. In the confusion, Do-hyun walked through the facility like a ghost, disabling anyone who got in his way. The base commander tried to negotiate. He offered money, information, safe passage. Do-hyun listened to his words and said nothing. Then he asked his question. "The cargo freighter. Where is it?" The commander hesitated 1 second too long. Do-hyun broke his arm. The commander screamed and gave up everything he knew. The freighter was at a hidden base in the deep asteroids. Torvin's personal hideout. Heavy security. At least 50 armed guards. Do-hyun left the commander crying on the floor and walked back to his ship. Mireille fell into step beside him. 50 guards. That is a lot, even for us. It is not enough. Do-hyun, we should wait for backup. Call in military support. He stopped walking and turned to face her. His eyes were terrifying. My daughter has been in their hands for 31 hours. Every minute I wait is another minute. She is scared and alone. I am not waiting. Mireille nodded slowly. She had known him for 20 years. She had seen him at his best and his worst. She knew there was no stopping him now. Then let us go get her back. The silent wake flew toward the asteroid field, carrying 5 soldiers who had once ended a war. They were older now, tired, carrying wounds both visible and invisible. But they still remembered how to fight. And somewhere in that asteroid field, Torvin sat in his command center, watching his sensors and feeling his confidence slowly crumble. The Reaper was coming. Nothing would stop him now. The asteroid base floated in darkness, hidden among rocks the size of mountains. It had taken Torvin years to build this place. Multiple defense turrets, thick walls, motion sensors everywhere. He had designed it to survive attacks from entire fleets, but when the silent wake appeared on his sensors, none of that made him feel safe. All guards to defensive positions, Torvin ordered through the intercom. His voice cracked slightly. This is not a drill. We have incoming hostiles. His second in command, a scarred veteran named Varro, looked at him with worried eyes. Sir, I still think we should release the children. Maybe he will show mercy if we cooperate. Torvin shook his head. If we show weakness now, we are finished. The girl is our only leverage. We hold her until he agrees to leave us alone. Varro wanted to argue, but he kept his mouth shut. He had served Torvin for 8 years. He had never seen his boss this scared. Outside, the silent wake did not slow down. It flew directly toward the base's main entrance, ignoring the defense turrets that opened fire. The ship's shields absorbed the blast like rain on a window. Then the ship landed. Not in a hidden spot. Not behind cover. It landed right in front of the main door, in the middle of the kill zone where every weapon could target it. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the ship's ramp lowered, and a figure in dark gray armor stepped out. Park. Do-hyun walked toward the main door. Behind him, Mireille and the others spread out, taking positions to cover escape routes. But everyone knew the real threat was the man walking alone. Guards opened fire from the walls. Plasma bolts and bullet rounds filled the air around Do-hyun. He did not run. He did not take cover. He just kept walking. His armor absorbed most of the shots. The rest he dodged with small movements, tilting his body just enough to let the bolts pass by. He had fought in dozens of battles. He knew how scared soldiers aimed, where their shots would go before they even pulled the trigger. He reached the main door and placed a small device on the lock. 3 seconds later, the door exploded inward. Inside, 10 guards waited in formation, weapons ready. They had been told this was just one human. Nothing to worry about. Do-hyun moved. He was not fast in the way young soldiers were fast. He did not flip or spin or do anything fancy. His movements were small and efficient, every action serving a purpose. He flowed between the guards like water, his hands and weapons striking with perfect precision. The first guard fell before he could fire. The second got one shot off, but it went wide. The third tried to run, but Do-hyun was already there, behind him, knocking him unconscious with a single strike to the neck. In 12 seconds, all 10 guards were down. Some were unconscious. Some had broken bones. None were dead. Do-hyun did not enjoy killing. He never had. Violence was a tool, nothing more. These guards were just employees, doing their job. They did not deserve to die for their boss's stupidity. But Torvin was a different matter. He moved deeper into the base, following the layout Mireille had hacked from the second station's computers. Cargo hold on a lower level. Command center on the upper level. The children would be in cargo. Torvin would be in command. He reached the cargo hold first. The door was locked from inside. He could hear crying on the other side, soft and muffled. His daughter might be in there. Yuna! He called through the door, his voice softer than it had been in hours. Yuna, are you there? Silence. Then a familiar voice, shaking but strong. Dad? Dad, is that you? Something cracked inside Do-yoon's chest. All the cold emptiness he had wrapped around himself suddenly felt heavy and wrong. His little girl was alive. She was right there, just behind this door. "It is me, sweetheart. I am going to get you out. Stand back from the door." He placed another explosive device on the lock. It was smaller this time, precise. He did not want to hurt anyone inside. The lock blew. The door swung open. 12 children stared at him with wide, terrified eyes. In front of them stood Yuna, her arms spread protectively, ready to defend the younger ones against whatever came through the door. When she saw her father, her brave face crumbled. "Dad!" She ran to him and threw her arms around his armored chest. He knelt down and held her tight, one hand cradling the back of her head like he had done when she was a baby. "I knew you would come," she whispered. I told them you would come." "Always," he said. "I will always come for you." He wanted to stay like this forever. But the mission was not over. "Myre," he said into his communicator. "I have the children. Cargo hold, lower level. Get them to the ship. On my way." He looked at Yuna. "I need you to go with Aunt Myre now. She will keep you safe." Yuna's eyes widened. "What about you?" "I have one more thing to do." She understood. She had always been smart. Too smart sometimes. She hugged him one more time and then stepped back, helping the other children get ready to move. Myre arrived 30 seconds later. She looked at Do-yoon and nodded once. "Take care of them," he said. "Take care of yourself." Then he turned and walked toward the upper levels. Toward Torvin. The command center was large, filled with screens and consoles. Torvin stood in the center, surrounded by his last 6 guards. In his hand was a pistol, pressed against nothing. He had expected Do-yoon to bring Yuna as a hostage. He had planned to use her as a shield, but Yuna was gone. His leverage had disappeared. "Stay back," Torvin said, his voice high and desperate. "I swear, I will shoot anyone who comes closer." His guards looked at each other nervously. They had seen what happened to their friends downstairs. They did not want to fight this human. Do-yoon stopped walking. He stood 10 meters away, completely still. "Your men can leave," he said calmly. "This is between you and me." The guards did not wait for Torvin's permission. They dropped their weapons and ran. Within seconds, only Torvin remained, alone and trembling. "You cannot do this," Torvin said. "I have connections. The syndicate will hunt you forever. You will never be safe." Do-yoon took one step forward. "The syndicate knows who I am now. They know what I did at Andrus. By tomorrow, they will pretend you never existed. No one will avenge you. No one will remember you." Another step. Torvin raised his pistol and fired. The shot hit Do-yoon's chest plate and bounced off harmlessly. Another step. "Please," Torvin begged. "I will give you anything. Money, ships, information, whatever you want." Do-yoon stood directly in front of him now. "I wanted my daughter to feel safe. I wanted her to grow up in a galaxy where she did not have to be afraid. You took that from her." He grabbed Torvin's wrist and twisted. The pistol fell to the floor. "The children you kidnapped. Do you know their names? Do you know their families?" Torvin shook his head frantically. "They were just cargo to you. Just money." Do-yoon's grip tightened. "My daughter spent 32 hours in a cargo hold, cold and scared, because you wanted to make a profit." He pulled Torvin close, their faces centimeters apart. "I am not going to kill you. Death is too easy. Instead, I am going to destroy everything you built. Your bases, your ships, your reputation. By next week, you will have nothing, and you will spend the rest of your life knowing that you could have avoided all of this if you had just left my daughter alone." He released Torvin, who collapsed to the floor in a shaking heap. Do-yoon turned and walked away. He did not look back. On the silent wake, Yuna was waiting at the top of the ramp. When she saw her father approaching, she ran to him again. He knelt down and held her for a long time. Around them, the other children reunited with Mireille and the team, who were preparing to take everyone home. "Is it over?" Yuna asked. Dayan looked at her face, so much like her mother's. He thought about all the violence he had used today, all the fear he had caused. He wondered if she would ever look at him the same way again. But her eyes held no fear, only love and relief. "Yes," he said softly. "It is over." And for the first time in 2 days, he let himself breathe. 1 month passed. The galactic news networks could not stop talking about what happened. They called it the Torvin incident or the Vril catastrophe, depending on which channel you watched. Every station had experts explaining who Park Do-yoon was, what he had done during the Crimson War, and why no one should ever have touched his family. Im Chae-yoon was a young human journalist who worked for the Colonial News Network. She had been assigned to document the aftermath, interviewing witnesses and survivors. It was supposed to be a simple story. It became something much bigger. She started on Horizon's Edge, where the kidnapping had happened. The station security chief refused to be interviewed. He said he had nothing to add and seemed nervous just hearing Do-yoon's name mentioned. She found a Thari merchant who had been in the plaza when Yuna was taken. He was old, with faded blue scales and kind eyes. "Humans are strange creatures," he told her. "I have traded with them for 40 years. They laugh easily. They cry easily. They make friends with everyone they meet. You would think they are soft." He paused to sip his tea. "But threaten what they love? Hurt their children or families? There is no force in the universe more dangerous. I have seen Kreth warriors and Voxen hunters, and even the old collective shock troops. None of them frighten me like a human protecting their young." Chae-yoon asked him why. "Because the others fight for territory or resources or pride. Humans fight for love. And love does not know when to stop. Love does not calculate odds or measure risks. Love just keeps coming until there is nothing left to fight." The Vril Syndicate released an official statement 3 days after the incident. They apologized for the unauthorized actions of rogue elements and promised that all responsible parties had been dealt with. They paid reparations to every family whose child had been taken. They asked for no investigation and wanted no further conflict. Behind closed doors, the syndicate's leadership collapsed. Half of them resigned. The other half fought for control of what remained. Torvin had been their rising star, the future of the organization. Now he was a broken man hiding on some forgotten moon, too afraid to show his face. Do-yoon had kept his promise. He destroyed everything Torvin owned. The bases, the ships, the bank accounts, all of it gone within a week. He did not kill anyone during this process. He did not need to. The threat was enough. On Horizon's Edge, Chae-yoon found another witness, a young Vril pilot who had been on border patrol the night Do-yoon entered their space. "My captain ordered us to intercept," the pilot said. "Standard procedure." Then we heard the broadcast. Just his name and what he wanted. My captain turned our ship around so fast I almost fell out of my chair. "Were you scared?" Chae-yoon asked. The pilot laughed bitterly. "I was terrified. But you know what scared me most?" His voice. It was so calm, so empty, like he had already decided what was going to happen, and nothing in the universe could change it. I have heard angry people before. I have heard crazy people. This was different. This was worse. The Galactic Council held a special session to discuss human threat assessment protocols. Ambassador Solvik sat quietly through most of it. letting the younger representatives argue about restrictions and treaties and military readiness. Finally, someone asked his opinion. "You want my advice?" Solvik said, "Do not give humans a reason to become dangerous. Trade with them fairly. Treat their people with respect. Leave their families alone. Do this, and they will be the best friends you ever had. They will help you build, teach you, share their strange music and stranger food with you." He leaned forward. "But break these simple rules? Threaten what they hold dear? Then pray to whatever gods you believe in. Because the same species that writes love poems and builds hospitals will burn your civilization to the ground and sleep peacefully afterward. This is what humans are. Accept it or avoid them. Those are your only choices." Dohan returned home with Yuna 2 weeks after the incident. Their colony world was called New Haven, a small planet on the outer edge of human space. It had rolling hills, blue skies, and absolutely nothing interesting happening. This was why he had chosen it. Life returned to normal surprisingly fast. Dohyun went back to hauling cargo. Yuna went back to school. They ate dinner together every evening, watched old movies on weekends, argued about homework and chores. But some things had changed. Yuna understood now. She knew why other adults sometimes looked at her father with fear in their eyes. She knew why he never talked about the war, why he flinched sometimes when ships flew overhead, why he sat alone at night staring at old photographs. She did not love him less because of what he was. If anything, she loved him more. He had done terrible things, yes, but he had done them to protect her. To protect all of them. One evening, she found him on the porch, watching the sunset. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink, beautiful and peaceful. She sat down beside him without speaking. They watched the sun sink below the horizon together. After a while, she asked, "Dad, do you think I could learn to pilot someday? Like Anselman?" He turned to look at her. In the fading lights, she looked so much like her mother that his heart ached. "I think you can do anything you want." She smiled. "I want to be like you." He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft and sad. "No, Yuna, be better. Be kinder. The galaxy has enough people like me. It needs more people like you." She leaned against his shoulder, warm and comfortable and safe. "I am proud of you, Dad. I know you do not think you deserve it, but I am. You saved all those kids. You kept your promise." His eyes were wet, but he did not wipe them. "Your mother would have been proud of you too," he said. "She would have loved seeing the person you have become." They sat together until the stars came out, father and daughter, 2 small figures on a porch at the edge of the universe. Somewhere across the galaxy, species told stories of the Reaper of Andros. They spoke of him in whispers, like a monster from legend. Parents warned their children to behave, or the Reaper would come for them. Soldiers studied his tactics in military academies. Criminal organizations added his name to lists of people never to cross. But on this small colony world, under these quiet stars, he was just Park Do-young, a cargo hauler who made bad pancakes on Sunday mornings, a father who helped with homework and made terrible jokes, a man who loved his daughter more than his own life. Yuna fell asleep against his shoulder. He did not move, did not want to wake her. He just sat there, feeling her warmth, listening to her soft breathing, grateful for this moment of peace. The universe was vast and dangerous and full of darkness. He knew this better than most. He had been part of that darkness once, and maybe part of it would always remain inside him. But right now, in this moment, there was only love, only family, only home. And perhaps, in the end, that was the most human thing of all. The end.